It's late at night, and the misshapen candle is burning. It is time for wisdom.
Hello everyone, and today we are going to be doing a very special video. It is 7 tips and different ways that I create ideas to write flash fiction about. So a flash fiction is less than 1,000 words, so it's a really short condensed story, and I'm really excited to share these with you. So tip number 1 is ideas come from conversations. So on live streams, a lot of times in the chat, I will have inspiration hit for little tiny blurbs. And like one of them came from Alexis's zombie journal, and she said that she wanted to have a family of zombies. And so I immediately thought of, oh my gosh, we could have a family of zombies all working together to go and find their prey. And so I did a really short little snippet. And then other inspiration has come from on live streams with Jules. We were talking about Fried Brain Town, where authors live who have ideas, just melted brains, because their brains are fried from writing so much. And so that actually spiraled into a whole world building opportunity. And so just keeping your ears peeled and your eyes open during conversations for little gems that pop up. And so just listen and pay attention. And it's really interesting what comes up. So tip number 2 for writing flash fiction is bounce ideas off of somebody. So I have a sister who is really good at finding all of my plot holes. So what I like to do is bounce ideas off of her, and she will ask me questions and pick up my world building, pick up my reasoning, and through that collaborative process I will pivot from one idea to another, and it really does help me to think deeper about why I'm choosing something and make it stronger by finding reasons, like flaws in my reasoning. So like the short flash fiction that I wrote about a homeowners association in a Lovecraftian village, my sister pointed out like the people would have noticed that their president of the homeowners association is not human because you have to go to a town meeting and vote. And I was like, oh, that's right. So all the normal people would have noticed already. And so I had to come up with the idea that it was a mail ballot and they had to mail in who they voted for. And so just having these ideas be picked apart really helps strengthen your flash fiction ideas. It can even flower into something completely different. Like my Witch's Purge was not originally, didn't have that twist at the end. And so by talking with her, I was able to go from, okay, a witch hunt to what if the witches were hunting Christians in the guise of witch hunts? And so that whole twist came from talking to my sister. So having somebody to bounce ideas off of is a great way to come up with flash fiction ideas. Tip number 3 is come up with classic tropes of your genre. So whatever you're trying to write. So for personally me, it's horror. So I can come up with a list of classic tropes like haunted houses, possession, witch hunts, just monsters, and ghost stories, and just spook houses and things like that. And I can just, necromancy was one of them. And so I came up with a list, and I'm just going through and I just have a list of these tropes. So I have like alien abduction, necromancy, spooky house, and then I have an inspiration from Spirited Away where like people will be turned into pigs will be one that I will write. And then 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, Lovecraft, and just list them all out. And those are great seeds for coming up with flash fiction ideas. So listing them out and expounding upon them a little bit and finding twists is a great thing to have. I don't think the necessarily necessary to have a twist on it, especially if you're just starting out, but it definitely helps to make it more unique and interesting. So tip number 4 is look for submissions that are being asked for publication. They usually have topics, and so you can move on from there. So personally right now I am working on flash fictions for Cemetery Gates Media, who are looking for submission for 5 different themes. So spook houses, in the woods, witchcraft, and supernatural slasher, and cemetery chiller. So I have 5 themes to go off of. And so like the theme of cemetery chiller, I went through my list of genres that I really like, genre tropes, and I like necromancy. So I'm having a necromancy flash fiction set in a cemetery. So I'm combining those to create a flash fiction. And I actually really like that one, and it might make it into a full-blown novel later on. Alright, 5 is to smash genre tropes together from different genres. So I'm writing horror, I could take some sci-fi tropes and smash them with horror, or some fantasy tropes and smash them together. So creating these interesting things that work off of each other. So it could be a horror set on a spaceship. So it could be Aliens, the movie, but a short flash fiction. So these genre smashes can be great fun for branching out a little bit and just having a play on themes, because some genres have specific tropes and other genres have other tropes, and merging them together creates a unique flavor and a great crossover potential. So number 6 is to watch and read things for inspiration. So my new, my character that keeps popping up in my chat that I love is my vampire gerbil general and his army of gerbil minions. And he actually came from 2 places. So in Invader Zim, there is a hamster class pet that Zim turns gigantic to use as a weapon with his cuteness to make people bow down to him, and he names him Ultra Peepee. And so this hamster that is being used as a weapon for mass destruction just because of its cuteness. And then that also merged with Bunnicula that I had just read, so the vampire aspect of an animal. So I have a vampire gerbil general. So these mixing of ideas of things that I have seen and I have read come together and create new fantastical ideas that are really fun to run with. And number 7 is something that I have stolen from Rachel Stevens. It is called a magic question. So you have an idea when you're brainstorming and you come up with a question to expound on it. And so you think, okay, I want to write a vampire flash fiction. And then you come up with a question to help expand and brainstorm. And it could be questions like, what is the most frightening aspect of a vampire? And then you'll list out things that scare you that you might want to capitalize on or subvert. And for vampires, one lore that would be really cool, for me, I love shadows. And so vampire shadows that move on their own in films is really cool. But I also love the idea of shadow walking, where you can walk into one shadow and then walk out of another shadow somewhere else. It would be really cool. And then you have movies where they can mirror walk, where you go through a mirror to get to somewhere else. For vampire lore, which is quite interesting. Good old Van Helsing. But just listing out different things from your question and exploring that way. So a magic question is a question that is unique to your story that will help you come up with answers that are more interesting than just the basics. So instead of saying, how do I get from point A to point B? You could say, how do I get from point A to point B by breaking my characters? Or how do I get from point A to point B in the most epic way possible? Or in a way that the audience will hold their breath. And so you will come up with questions that will weed out your standard basic answers like, okay, they walked. okay, that doesn't really tell you much. But say like they had to walk along the edges of cliffs, or they had to go through the mines of Moria where there are orcs. And so it just makes you elaborate a bit and find more specific answers that are going to help you in your brainstorming. So yeah, so those are 7 different ways that you can come up with ideas for flash fictions. I love flash fiction. You don't need subplots. They are very compact. You need minimal world building. You do need some so that you don't have plot holes like with my homeowners association that I had to go through and fix. But you don't need 100 hours of world building for flash fiction. And so I really hope that these help, and happy writing.